This is Marietta from the Business Champion Show. Every week, I sit down with people who build our communities, small business owners, dreamers, and doers who turn challenges into opportunities. Their journeys remind us that success is about heart, courage, and connection. Join me as we celebrate the champions among us, right here in Connecticut and beyond. Visit thebusinesschampion.com and be part of our growing community. Let's do this. Hello, and welcome to the Business Champion Show. I'm your host, Marietta Kammerer. Different professions, same skill, different consequences. The higher the stakes, the better the listening has to be. That's our topic today. Let's get started. I've been thinking about why people don't really learn how to listen until something is at risk. Not politeness, not manners, real listening. And I realized it has nothing to do with personality. It has something to do with consequences. We live in an intangible economy now. Most people don't sell products. They sell themselves, their judgment, their presence, their belief system, their ability to stay with another human being long enough for meaning to form. And the uncomfortable truth is, most people only develop listening skills when their income, their credibility, or their responsibility depends on it. And I know what I'm talking about. I have firsthand experience and knowledge of over 42 years on this topic. One thing people misunderstand, especially in radio broadcasting, is that listening is not passive. On the radio, you cannot wait. 8 to 10 seconds of dead air is death. If a guest loses their thread, circles, or can't find the word, you don't disappear. You step in. You change the angle, ask a different question, or sometimes you simply give the word so the conversation can flow again. That's not interruption. That's professional responsibility. Listening at this level is active and decisive. I'm talking about the radio broadcaster. I'm talking about the host. And I will get into that in a little deeper in a bit. We see it daily on TV. We hear daily on radio how several guests are being interviewed and keep talking over another guest, over the host, or interrupt. Those are adults who should know better. Unless this is pointed out to them ahead of time, they don't know or they don't care, just to get their peace of mind in. To navigate a total of 5 people and have them talk just when prompted is always a challenge. I enjoy it. I enjoy doing it, and I happen to be good at it. Not everyone is in the studio and they see you and they know when you stop talking, the other one begins, whoever's prompted. Because we all sit in different chat rooms. We're in different parts of the world. We're in one chat room. And when you have 5, 6 people, yes, there has to be some order in all of this. So they speak when prompted. And it always doesn't happen because there's always somebody in there that just starts talking and doesn't quiet. So that's why when we don't see each other, they have to rely on their own listening skills, and they have none. I already know that. So, but at least have the politeness to shut up when the other person is talking. So once you see this, you start noticing the same skill everywhere, just with different consequences. So take actors. People think acting is about delivering lines, but it isn't. It's about listening for timing, for rhythm, for when the other person has finished becoming who they are. Come in a second or two too early and the scene doesn't collapse. It just loses truth. Here, listening protects authenticity. Move that same skill into radio broadcasting. Now the stakes rise. You're listening for shifts, hesitation, the word that almost the word that almost comes out. Wait too long and the listener leaves. Rush and you flatten the moment. Listening here protects connection. Now I want to take you into the financial professional arena. I spent there 20 years. And this is the industry I learned to listen because it's a matter of learn to listen, or you can't sustain in this profession because you're not earning any money. So people don't talk about fear directly. They say yes while their voice says no. Numbers may look fine, but something isn't settled. In that moment, listening either moves to the transaction forward or stops it to protect someone's future. Here, listening protects trust and long-term stability. What am I talking about? I tell you what I'm talking about. You're sitting in front of potential clients and they have granted you the interview, the meeting. You are prepared to ask questions, and the other person is hesitant to even answer any questions. Why are you asking me these questions? And. So it's a very fragile moment, the first minute, very fragile. It's making or breaking it. So, and then when the person has decided to open up, then you got to listen to how the words are being presented, what the story is all about, if it's a story, or do you need to help it along? So the spoken word tells you everything and the tone of the voice. That's what I'm saying. And I always thought, coming from the finance industry, coming from the as an employee, oh, I know how to listen. Well, I didn't, because afterwards, as we were recapping the visit, the appointment, I heard, had not heard this or that, this, and I was told by the person who was the professional in the industry. And I felt like I was being scolded. And from that moment on, I put my listening ears on every appointment I had, and especially when she participated in it. So because I didn't need to be scolded, and I'm glad I went through this. So today, after so many years, I hear what people are not saying. I hear everything. Anyway, so if you don't learn to listen in the intangible arena, you cannot see the product because first of all, you're the product and you just don't see. So you just rely on the spoken words, the conversation. You have to be more than an active listener. You almost become an artist at listening. I'm telling you. In medicine and healthcare, a lot of patients don't present symptoms cleanly. A lot of people can't articulate themselves. What do you mean they don't present symptoms cleanly? But they have a problem actually capturing what's happening. A lot of people, they cannot precisely explain something, not just because of to the doctor, but in general. So the doctors know that. They're trained for that. But then they end up testing the doctor and often quietly, almost as an afterthought, miss it and they don't repeat it. So that's where the listening skills come in by the doctor. What is he or she really saying? Because they can't articulate themselves and they talk around the problem, and you got to be almost, oh my God, it's like you really have to listen. So they decided it wasn't a safe way to say, so they don't want to say anything to the patient. So they're talking to the doctor now. Listening here isn't just about diagnosis. It protects dignity and sometimes safety. So I don't know why sometimes they don't want to say something. I don't know that. I'm not a doctor. I'm not working with this every single day, but it's up to the doctor to really interpret this. It's almost like they're speaking a different language and you have to interpret what they really want to say. I am I am certain of that. But why what I'm not certain about is why some patients would withhold information. That I don't know. Why would I withhold any information from a doctor? Maybe because of fear. I don't know. How, let me put myself in those shoes. Why would why would I withhold anything from a doctor? I can't even think of it. I have to pass on that because I know I'm sitting in front of this person and they can help me, or they can at least explain to me why and how come. So I pass on that one because I'm not a doctor. I'm not giving medical advice. So never withhold information from a doctor. So, but the doctors know why certain patients would withhold information. They know, I don't. Okay, now here it comes. Airline pilots, aviation figured something out early. Ego interferes with listening. Okay. And I said, what do they mean by that? That's why co-pilots are trained to speak and captains are trained to listen. Not because they're kind, but because silence kills. Here, listening protects lives. And I said, I don't quite understand that. So, because aviation learned a long time ago that many accidents happened not from lack of skills, but because someone noticed a problem and didn't speak up, or spoke up and wasn't heard, wasn't listened to. You can relate to that, right? Because it just didn't, I didn't quite understand what that meant. The co-pilot does this, the captain does that. I said, wait a minute. So this is what it is that they had in aviation. Many accidents because, you know, the old saying, the captain is the highest rank and is always right. No, 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 no. So the co-pilot, when the co-pilot sees something, the captain has to listen, and vice versa. So speaking up is not optional. It's part of the job. That was interesting. And you know, it's in other companies and companies too. Well, the boss is always right and this and that. And when you speak up, no. In aviation, the people are trained, the airline pilots are trained to listen to one another, and irregardless of rank. And that makes sense once I dove into it because it didn't make sense to me before. And I didn't want to present it that way because it has to make sense to me in order to present it. So they're on a life preserving system. Oh, that's cool. That's really cool. I did not know that. I never even thought of it because our topic is today listening skills and what level of listening skills we have to have depending on um, where you're at and where the most consequences are. Think about even somebody who is a dispatcher at a police station or at a firehouse where life and death is at stake, and how the listening skills have to, we don't think about this. I don't think about this every day. So I have very high experience in the intangible arena in the finance industry, as well as in the broadcasting industry. So, and as I was putting the show together, I said, there must be other industries. And it's so true. Look at the doctor. You're talking, you're sitting on the chair, in the chair, and you got 7 minutes with the doctor. That's about average. And in 7 minutes, he's supposed to understand what you went through, and pick a diagnosis and start you on medication that makes you feel better. You get where I'm going with this. That is incredible if you really pick it apart. We never think about this, listening skills. And it's easy to miss. It's very easy to miss. Going back to the aviation, what came to mind too, remember that incident where the commercial airliner and the helicopter collided a few months back, and they were almost at the same altitude. And what I heard, one of the reason was that the helicopter just continued is because there was a delay in the communication, in the transmission of the communication. Yeah, a second, 2 or 3 seconds make a difference, but it was a delay. That's what I heard the other day. So I'm telling you, it's we just don't think about this. We're busy with other things, and I said, with my knowledge in radio broadcasting and in the finance industry, where I really developed my listening skills, I have superb listening skills. And I want to bring you over now. We're going back to the broadcasting. When you work in broadcasting, your voice gives you away instantly. Even though the listener can't see you, they know you. That's the paradox of radio. You're invisible, but completely exposed. Isn't that something? The voice carries your mental state. It tells the listener whether you're confident or unsure, prepared or winging it, focused or distracted. I hear immediately if someone enjoys what they're doing or if they're just getting through it. I hear intelligence in how thoughts are formed, not in vocabulary. I hear whether someone is upbeat or heavy, positive or cynical, grounded or scattered. Many times in the morning, we tune into our favorite station, and you have experienced where the radio broadcaster just talks too fast, and sometimes, many times, the voice sounds like a hammer beating on your head, boom, 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 where you just have to turn it off. It's their frame of mind that you're reacting to. So you can't hide any of that on radio. You might be invisible to the listener, as I said, but your inner world is not. So your voice gives it away. If you're tense, the voice tightens. If you're insecure, it rushes or flattens. If you're not authentic, there is a slight disconnect, a gap between words and presence. And if you're acting your way through life instead of actually living it, the voice reveals that too. I am saying this from experience, and I will give you some details. I read voices. I always have. I can hear when someone is grounded in themselves. I can hear when they're searching while they're talking. Now, I personally can't stand that. Sometimes you have to do that. If you deviate from your script and you want to add something to it, that has happened to me many times. So I try to put everything in the script. And sometimes you have an afterthought. So you add it to it. But you don't interview a person and you start improvising on the spot when they're on air. And then even the radio broadcaster starts once upon a time, the guest is waiting, the expert is waiting, and here you're giving almost like a 2-minute story, which is way too long, just to really ask him a question. And they're getting antsy, the guest. The listener's getting antsy because you're telling a story where you're almost going in the direction of answering it. Now, a lot of people do that because they're not prepared. And they talk and talk and talk, and that irritates the heck out of me. It really does. So, and I also can hear when someone believes what they're saying and when they're repeating something that sounds about right, but doesn't belong to them. Very, very interesting. Everything that I do, I have to own the story. I have to, not I have to, I'm sorry, that's the wrong word. I own the story. I believe in it. Otherwise, I can't put it together. It just won't happen. So the voice never lies because it carries the nervous system with it. That's very, very interesting. Part of that comes from training, and part of it comes from who I am. I'm a highly sensitive person, an HSP, it's called. I never knew that till I had a professional therapist on a couple of years ago on my radio program. And she was oh, I'm an HSP. I said, what's that? A highly sensitive person. I said, I've been like that since I was 2 years old. I've never broadcasted it. I was connected with it just for my own good. And anyway, so now we have a name to it. So about 15 to 20% of people worldwide are wired this way. They process information deeply. They pick up subtle changes in tone, rhythm, energy, emotional shifts, things that others may overlook. In the right environment, that sensitivity becomes an instrument. And in broadcasting, it's valuable. So I can hear somebody on an answering machine. You know how we all have answering machines? Not answering machines anymore, but an answering system, an app. And I can just listen. I don't have to know the person. I can just listen to the voice and I can tell you exactly who they are as a person. I don't need to know somebody. I can I can just listen to the voice and I can tell you they're this, and this. And you will know them. I don't. So, because when someone speaks, I don't just hear what they say. I hear how much they trust themselves. I hear whether they're mentally present. I hear whether they're thinking clearly or compensating. I hear belief, doubt, curiosity, resistance, all of this. And here's the part many people underestimate. The audience, the audience hears it too. They may not be able to name it. They don't say, this host lacks authenticity, or this person doesn't believe in themselves. They just feel something is off. They disconnect. They turn out. They tune out. Sorry. The voice tells them whether to lean in or pull away. That's why broadcasting is such an unforgiving profession. It doesn't reward pretending, it rewards alignment. And do you know, I spend a total of 20 years on live as a live radio broadcaster. And I came from television and I said, okay, let me, I'll conquer this. And what was important to me that I feel the comfort within myself, that I sound just the way I am when I'm off air, on air. And I reach that. It's a comfort level. It's really, really a comfort level, and I have arrived. A lot of people don't listen to their voices. A lot of people don't reflect. They just do it. And nah, I don't need to listen to it. You know what? I have people like that around me too, like that. It irritates me, but there's nothing I can do. And I listen to everything because I know how I felt when I presented it. And I want to see how it showed in my voice, or maybe not. So because we all feel differently every single day. And there are changes in our delivery, certain topics, certain days. We're just human. We're not robots, for crying out loud. So, and I have achieved that my comfort level is there, that I can be Marietta the way Marietta is, off air, off screen, wherever. And I love that. So when what you think, what you feel, and what you say are in sync, the voice settles. It carries authority without force. It creates trust without effort. It holds attention without manipulation. People listen because they feel anchored, not entertained. And this brings me to something else that deserves its own conversation. And I have to make this quick because we're almost out of time. Why are people so afraid of public speaking? It's not because they don't know what to say, it's because they know somewhere deep down that the voice reveals them, such as insecurity, lack of preparation, inner conflict, self doubt, misalignment. On a stage, in a meeting, or behind a microphone, you can't hide behind slides, titles, or roles. The voice carries your inner state straight into the room. That fear isn't about audiences, it's about being heard. And that alone, the fear of being heard, of being exposed through the voice, is a topic for its own show. Because in broadcasting and in life, your voice will always tell on you. So you can't hide who you are. You can only develop it. So I can help you with that. You contact me if you would like, and I'll talk to you about it. So till next time, I'm Marietta Cameron.